For the Bohr-Rutherford diagram of aluminum, I can spot two mistakes. So the first mistake is the number of neutrons. So they put 27 neutrons. That's the atomic mass. So the protons and neutrons need to add up to 27. So that would mean that there would be 14 neutrons. So the correct solution, I'll just start drawing it over here. 13 protons, 14 neutrons. You can use subtraction to get the neutrons if you wish. 27 minus 13 is 14. There is another mistake. So you want to carefully count how many electrons are drawn and to make sure they are drawn in the correct spots. So for the first energy level, there's 2 electrons paired up, and that is correct. Nothing wrong with that. The second energy level, I see 8 electrons in 4 sets of 2, and that is also correct. That is indeed what you do for the second energy level. And then for the third energy level, I need to get to 13 electrons in total. So there are 3 more drawn, 1, 2, 3 more drawn, which makes 13 electrons in total, so that's good. It's just that these are not drawn in the right spots. We need to spread out those 3 valence electrons. So what we do is we keep them spread out for the first 4 electrons in any energy level. Once we get past 4 electrons in an energy level, then we start pairing it up. So they were not supposed to pair it up right at the beginning there. So I'll draw the correct answer then. The first 2 electrons, and then second energy level 8. And there's nothing wrong with this. At the third energy level, the 3 electrons need to be spread out. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I identified 2 mistakes to that question. Some of these questions only have 1 mistake. Some of them have more than 1 mistake. You just have to look very carefully. So example 2, classify each substance as either an element, compound, heterogeneous mixture, or homogeneous mixture. A is salt water, B salad, C calcium, D carbon monoxide. So I guess I'll just put a check mark on the ones that are correct and a X on the ones that are incorrect. So A is salt water. I don't think that's a compound. A compound is 2 or more elements bonded together. The salt and water are not bonded together. They are just mixed up, but they're not actually forming a compound. So it is a mixture. And which kind of mixture is it? Well, it's the one where it's well mixed and you cannot tell just by looking at it that it's made up of more than one type of thing. So that kind is the homogeneous mixture. A salad they put as heterogeneous mixture. I would agree with that. Heterogeneous mixture means you can see multiple parts to it, and you do in a salad. C, calcium, they put homogeneous mixture. So that would be incorrect. The correct answer, calcium, is element number 20 on the periodic table. So you should identify it as an element. Anything on the periodic table should be identified as an element. And typically in grade 9, we're only going to ask you about the first 20 elements. So if you're very familiar with those ones, then that can be a quick question for you to do. And then D, carbon monoxide, they have it as an element. That's wrong as well. So if it just said carbon, it would be an element, but it says carbon monoxide, and that's actually a bond between carbon and oxygen atoms. So it's 2 different elements bonded together. That's going to make a compound. Sample 3, identify and explain these safety symbols. So the first one is an exclamation point as a symbol, and they called it serious health effects can cause serious harm in a short amount of time. So it is called serious health effects, but um, it's not serious harm over a short amount of time. So the description is incorrect. The name is correct, but the description is incorrect. So the description for serious health effects, in our notes, we have it as toxicity, skin or eye damage, and it can be organ damage. But these harms they're not usually happening over a short amount of time. It's for these health effects to take place, it's usually over repeated exposure over a longer period of time. B, they wrote corrosive and it damages skin and other materials upon contact. So that is what corrosive means. However, that does not match what the symbol shows. The symbol here is a symbol for a biohazard. Infectious materials. So these are things that cause disease. They can be bacteria, they can be viruses. Okay, so that's the biohazard symbol. They just got the wrong symbol. The corrosive symbol is something else. It's a picture of acid breaking and spilling on somebody's hand. All right, 4. A kitchen tools company is choosing a material to design a baking sheet with. Explain why this company should choose a material that is both malleable and hard. So the solution is, the sample solution is it needs to be malleable so that it can withstand the heat in an oven, and it needs to be hard so that it won't break if it is accidentally dropped. So, yes, a baking sheet does need to withstand heat, and yes, it does need to not break if you drop it, but those are not the definitions of malleable and hard. Okay, so they described important traits that a baking sheet needs. But have the wrong definitions of malleability and hardness. So I'm going to write a correct solution. So it needs to be malleable. The material needs to be malleable. So it can be formed into the shape it needs to be, which is a sheet. And it needs to be hard. We're going to go with the definition of hardness, which is a resistance to being scratched. So it needs to be hard so it won't scratch easily. So you can tell sometimes that I start saying a sentence or writing a sentence and I change my mind with the way I want to word it. there's multiple ways you can word a lot of these answers. As long as you get the meaning correct, get the concepts correct. Okay, sample 5, we're into density now. A substance has a density of 2.4 grams per centimeters cubed. If a sample made of the substance has a mass of 36 grams, what is the volume of the sample? Okay, so the sample solution starts with the formula V equals D over M, and then it goes in to fill in the density value of 2.4 for D and 36 for M, and then it gets the answer there. There are two mistakes that I can see. First, the formula itself is wrong. That is not how you calculate volume using density and mass. Secondly, I see that the units are wrong as well. Centimeters are not the units of volume. It should be in centimeters cubed. So I'll make those corrections. The correct formula for volume is not density divided by mass. It's the other way around. It's mass divided by density. You can either memorize that, or you can start with the original formula of density and do the algebra until you get to this formula, which I showed in the video for taking up the sample test, the practice test. But anyways, this is the correct formula for volume. So they had it flipped. So it's really 36 divided by 2.4. And that can go in the calculator. Which gives 15. And the correct units for volume would be centimeters cubed. So there would be the correct solution. Okay, and the last one. An element is in period 4 in family 2 in the periodic table. Which element is this? How many valence electrons does an atom of this element have? And how many energy levels does an atom of this element have? Okay, so this deals with periodic table language, one of our last lessons that we did, lesson number 11. So the incorrect solution is the element is carbon, and it has 2 valence electrons and 4 energy levels. So the only thing that is wrong about this solution is the element. Okay, wrong element. Everything else is actually right, I think. I'll just go double check. 2 valence electrons. Let me color coordinate this here. 2 valence electrons. And is that correct? Well, it says family 2. So that's actually correct. And then we'll check the other thing, which is 4 energy levels. Is that correct? Well, it says the element is in period 4, and the period is indeed how many energy levels it has. So that stuff's actually correct. The only thing is they got the wrong element. The one that matches this would be calcium. Okay, so that's all I'll write for the correct solution. Everything else was correct, so that's the only correction that was needed. So period 4 means row 4. Family 2 means column 2. So you find where row 4 and column 2 intersect, and it intersects right at calcium.